What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are basically going to continue our coverage over the Reign of X era of X-Men comics, and we are going to pick back up with Cable once again, with Cable number 9 and number 10. Now, with that being said, you have to remember, by this point in the Reign of X era of X-Men comics with Cable, right now, he just found out that Strife is alive again. Now remember, Strife is basically the evil clone of Cable that was made back in the 1980s when Chris Claremont was working on the X-Men titles. But back in the 80s, Apocalypse made a clone of Cable, and of course that clone was Strife. Now here's the thing though, Strife, being the clone of Cable, doesn't have the technovirus inside of him, meaning that Strife is actually a very powerful psychic character, because when it comes to Cable with the technovirus inside of him, Cable has to use all of his psychic abilities as a way to keep that virus from basically killing him. And so when it comes to Strife, Strife does not have the virus. And so Strife is a very powerful character. Now, the reason why young Cable is freaking out, because basically the last time he heard of Strife, he thought he had killed Strife. But of course, Strife is once again alive. And Strife is doing some messed up things behind the scenes. And so this is young Cable beginning the process of hunting down Strife. So here we go. Cable number 9 and number 10. Now, to begin today's video, we actually don't see Cable right now hunting down Strife. Instead, we actually see him right now with Esme. Now remember, Esme is one of the Stepford Cuckoos. And remember, the Stepford Cuckoos are basically the clones of Emma Frost. And there is 4 of them. Now Phoebe, one of the 4 Stepford Cuckoos, is actually dating Kid Omega in the X-Force book. But in the Cable books, Esme is the one who's kind of dating Cable. Now, with that being said, you have Cable and Esme right now on a mission taking care of some scientists that work for Advanced Idea Mechanics. Now remember, Advanced Idea Mechanics is basically AIM. And right now they're in a submarine, but they're kind of getting a tad bit too close to Krakoa. And so, of course, Cable and Esme went into their submarine to kind of mess around with it as a way to send them away from Krakoa, but to also remind them, do not mess with mutants at all, because if you do, the next time will not be a warning. And so, of course, they were able to get rid of them and then kind of leave the submarine and go back to their boat, where, of course, they do meet up with Emma Frost and Cyclops, their parents, basically. Now, of course, you're probably wondering, is Cyclops also kind of doing some things with Emma Frost? Honestly, I think so, because I know Jean Grey is technically dating both Wolverine and Cyclops, so it wouldn't surprise me if Cyclops is also dating Jean Grey and Emma Frost at this point in X-Men comics. But either way, you have Cable go talk to Emma Frost, because he wants to know what Emma Frost has learned about the idea of Strife, because apparently Cable had asked Emma Frost, and she went to Charles Xavier and the rest of the Stepford Cuckoos to basically use their power to see if they're able to actually detect Strife. And of course, none of them can find Strife. And so with that, you have Cable tell Emma Frost to tell Esme that basically he's sorry, because he wants to find Strife, but he wants to make sure to keep her out of this. He does not want her to get hurt, because Cable truly does care for her. Now, the next person Cable actually goes to is Wolverine, which honestly, it makes sense, because Wolverine is known as one of the best trackers in Marvel Comics. So if you need Wolverine's help to find somebody, then you better go ask Wolverine. The problem is, though, right now, Wolverine is on a mission. And right now, Wolverine is pretending to be a character known as Patch. But of course, Cable's kind of like, listen, man, I snuck into this bar to find you because I need your help to find Strife. Like, I need your help. But also, I need you to basically help me fight against Strife. And so you have Wolverine kind of like, okay, I can't really help you right now to track him down, but when it comes to fighting, let me know, because I'll be there to help you throw some hands at Strife. but right now I'm on a mission. And really, I can't leave the mission, and you basically just ruined my cover. So good job, Cable. But either way, I'll help you down the road when you call for my name. Now, you do have Cable actually go to Rachel Summers. Now, of course, Rachel Summers is technically the sister of Cable, but not really. Because remember, Rachel Summers comes from an alternate timeline where Cyclops and Jean Grey had a daughter. And of course, that was Rachel. The problem is, though, that was a timeline that still exists. But in that timeline, Cable, I'm pretty sure, was not in that timeline. But either way, technically she is his sister, but not. Either way, he came to her for help. Because remember, Cable cannot really use his psychic abilities like he wants to thanks to the technovirus. Meaning that he's coming to Rachel to basically ask Rachel to, use her powers to hopefully find Strife. But of course, she can't. Now, this is the moment where you actually have Rachel tell us that she's very worried about the idea of why Strife was going around kidnapping mutant babies. Because to her, it kind of gives the idea of a demonic spell being done very soon. Because usually a lot of demonic spells require the sacrifice of a baby. And so that's her saying, I think we might have a problem with Strife when it comes to demonic things. Now, you do have Cable go meet up with Magic. Now, this makes sense because remember, even though Magic is just a mutant, she's also the ruler of Limbo. And so this is Cable coming to her because in Limbo, there are demons. Demons do reside in Limbo. And he's remembering what his sister just said. That basically it seems like Strife is up to something that belongs onto the demonic side of things. And so this is Cable coming to Magic hoping that maybe there is a demon in Limbo who might know where to find Cable. Now, you do have Magic take Cable to Limbo. And when they get there, you do have some of her smaller, weaker demons take them to a demon she captured a long time ago. And I feel like this demon was around back in the early days of Marvel Comics. I could be wrong, but his name is Nas. I really hope I pronounced that correctly. But either way, though, this demon is Cable hoping that this demon might know where Strife is at. But of course, this demon has no idea where Strife is at. And so basically, this little adventure coming to Limbo to ask some demons to see if they know where Strife is at does not pan out for Cable. And so now he must move on to his next plan. Now, you do have Cable go find Wildside. I love that name so much. I don't know why. But either way, though, this is Cable coming to Wildside. And the reason why, because Cable remembers that Wildside used to work for Strife. And so this is Cable wondering if Wildside actually knows that where Strife could possibly be at. Now, of course, this is Wildside also being a jerk. Because Wildside kind of like, I heard you killed him or you mind wiped him, or now there could be a possibility that you are him, or I actually do know and I don't want to tell you. It's just Wildside being a jerk. And so, of course, it does lead into Cable and Wildside basically fighting against one another, which no surprise there. And of course, the fight does at first seem like Cable is actually going to lose to Wildside, but then you have Cable being able to bounce back and actually defeat Wildside. But of course, it's now Cable threatening Wildside and saying, if you don't tell me where Strife is at, I am basically going to kill you. But of course, they were stopped by Hope Summers. Yes, another Summers, except this Summers is actually the daughter of Cable. Let me explain. So not this Cable, but kind of is this Cable. What I mean is that back in the 90s and 2000s, you had an older Cable. And the older Cable basically took in this young girl, Hope Summers. Because after House of M and a bunch of different X-Men storylines, Hope Summers was the first mutant born in a very long time. And of course, a lot of different groups wanted her because it made her so special. Now, of course, Cable, the older version Cable, took her to the future and basically raised her and then brought her back. Now, with that being said, though, she kind of looks at the older Cable as her adoptive father. And so that's why fans say that Hope Summers is the daughter of Cable, even though technically he is not her actual biological father. Now, with that being said, though, old Cable is gone. So all we have now is just young Cable. And you have young Cable kind of making it awkward for the two of them because technically that is his daughter in the future when he's older. But either way, though, it's both of them saying that they know what they have to do. If they want to find Strife, they have to bring back somebody very important. And that person is the original 1990s Cable, the one fans kind of have been wanting back for a very long time. And honestly, it's true. Like, I love young Cable. He's cool and all, but I feel like you need the old 90s Cable because when he appears in the book, you know that book is about to go down. And so this is young Cable and Hope saying, we have to find the older version of me because he's the only one who can basically stop Strife. Now, of course, when we jump into Cable number 10, we actually do see Cable about to break into the House of X and use some knockout gas as a way to hopefully knock out Charles Xavier. And the reason why, because Cable basically needs to use Cerebro to hopefully help him find Strife. Except Cable was caught before he was able to actually use the knockout gas to knock out Charles Xavier by Emma Frost. And this is the moment where you basically have Cable tell Emma Frost, listen, if we're going to win, I need to bring back the old me because that is the only person who can technically stop Strife. And of course, that is the moment where you have Cable explain to Emma Frost that with Cable being here in the past, but not being actually out there in the future fighting against Strife, Strife has become too powerful, which means that now Strife is an actual threat to Krakoa and the entire island. And so this is Cable telling Emma Frost, listen, I need to basically bring back the old me to save all of this, what you guys built, what I helped build. Now, with that being said, though, that is the moment you have Emma Frost actually look at Cable and say, why haven't you gone to your father? Your father is the great captain of the entire island. And that's true because remember, you have the Quiet Council, the government system of Krakoa, but you also have the captains, the ones that kind of lead different teams against different situations. And Cyclops is the number one captain because Cyclops has been the number one X-Men forever in all of Marvel Comics. He was the first X-Men that Charles Xavier had recruited. But either way, though, it's Emma Frost saying, go to your father. Tell him about this. Tell him what you're going through. Explain to him that right now you basically need his help to figure this out. Why haven't you gone to your father? And so it's Cable like, Emma Frost is right. If I'm going to get this figured out, I have to go to my father. And of course, he says he will. But then he does ask Emma Frost, is Esme mad at him? And of course, you have Emma say, yes. Like, dude, she's a young woman. Yeah, she's going to be mad at you, Sherlock Holmes. And she basically walks away. Now, of course, when Cable goes to meet up with Cyclops, of course, Cyclops is getting ready for the good old gala event that's coming down the road. And you have Jumbo right now creating Cyclops' outfit for that event that's coming down the road. But that is the moment you have Cable coming to Cyclops and saying, hey, Dad, listen, we got to talk. And that is the moment you have Cyclops tell Cable, oh, yeah, we have to because basically, Emma Frost did call me up and she gave me a message where, of course, you have Cable like, oh, she already told you about what's going on. But in reality, it was Emma Frost telling Cyclops that they have a mission to go on, which is that there are some mutants from Arakko right now causing a problem in London. Because remember, there is now two islands, Arakko and Krakoa. But when it comes to Arakko, right now, Arakko is new to Earth. And when I say new to Earth, I mean that they were part of Earth, But you have to remember, they were sent away into another dimension for years, and they were at war for years. And also, Apocalypse's family was on that island as well. And so even though they've been brought back to Earth, their mindset is still that they're at war all the time. And so it's Cyclops and Cable having to go to London to basically calm down that crowd of Iraqis who are causing problems in London. Now, you do have Cable and Cyclops basically go over to London to go deal with those Araco mutants that are basically causing a problem in London. Now, of course, it does lead into a battle between the two sides. But while Cable and Cyclops are fighting against those characters, that is the moment you have Cable tell Cyclops about what is going on at the moment. Where, of course, that basically Strife is back and Strife is causing a problem. And that Cable's main game plan right now is to bring back the old version of himself, hoping that the old version will be able to find a way to actually stop Strife. Now, Cyclops doesn't want to do that. Cyclops feels like the young Cable should have a chance to live a life, a normal life, because the old Cable, he's done. He did his thing. Why bring him back? You should have the chance to live your own personal life. But at the same time, though, it's Cable saying, we don't have a choice here. We have to bring him back, because if we don't bring him back, Strife is going to basically cause us problems down the road that where we might not be able to win. So why are you fighting this? But this is Cyclops thinking that if I let you go, young Cable, I lose my chance to actually raise you or be a father to you. Because with old Cable, I couldn't be that father figure. But for you, I can be that father figure. That's why Cyclops doesn't want to let young Cable bring back old Cable. But they're at a point where they technically don't have a choice here. They have to bring back the old Cable. But either way, while the two characters were arguing with one another, they were able to actually deal with the two Araco people to be able to move on. Now, we actually do pick up with the older Cable, and right now we see the older Cable is right now somewhere in time, where of course he is woken up by some demons. Now, of course, he was actually faking being knocked out or fake being asleep, but either way, he does get back up. But when he does get back up, we do see that Cable is holding something that only the young Cable had so far, and that is the light of Galador. And remember, the light of Galador was used by young Cable in the Exosaurus crossover event, which tells us right now something happened over time where older Cable was able to get the same exact sword. Because when Cable, the younger one, found it, that was the first time young Cable actually found the sword. So something must have happened where old Cable was able to get that sword. On top of that, it tells us that basically old Cable will be replacing young Cable soon if he has a sword. But either way, you do have older Cable begin the process of actually beating down on those demons to kind of get rid of them. But as he's fighting against those demons, well, we all know they're going to die. But either way, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So with that being said, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.